My name is Paige Martin. I'm 26 years old, and I'm sitting alone in my kitchen right now with my hands shaking, staring at a stack of papers that have completely rerouted my life. I keep rereading the same sentence, hoping the words will rearrange themselves into something less insane. They don't. The bank called me this morning about a mortgage on my house that I never applied for, a mortgage I didn't sign. A mortgage that somehow exists anyway. 2 years ago, I bought my first home. Nothing fancy. A modest 3-bedroom ranch in the suburbs, about 40 minutes from where I grew up. It took me 6 years of saving, working 2 jobs through most of my early 20s, skipping vacations, skipping nights out, skipping everything that didn't move me closer to that down payment. That house wasn't just a building. It was proof. Proof that I could build something stable on my own, that I could escape the chaos I grew up in, that I could finally exhale. Which is why this feels like someone reached into my chest and ripped that stability out by the roots. My father, Robert Martin, is 58. If I had to describe him in one phrase, it would be financially inventive. There was always a scheme when I was growing up, always a shortcut, always some plan that was supposed to fix everything. My mother left when I was 12. For a long time, I blamed her. Now, I think the constant financial turbulence finally broke her. Dad raised me and my younger brother alone after that, and I'll give him this. He kept food on the table. We always had a roof. But money was never steady. It appeared and disappeared in ways I didn't understand as a kid, and learned not to question as a teenager. My younger brother Evan is 24. He's always been Dad's favorite. Not loudly, not cruelly, just quietly undeniable. When Evan dropped out of college after 1 semester, Dad called it finding his own path. When I took 5 years to finish my degree because I was working full-time, Dad asked why it was taking me so long. Evan has lived with Dad for the past 3 years, paying minimal rent, bouncing between jobs that never lasted. I learned early to keep my distance from Dad's financial orbit. I didn't lend him money, I didn't co-sign, I didn't attach my name to anything. I'd watched him burn through friendships, extended family, even his own siblings, leaving unpaid debts and broken promises behind. So when he asked me 3 months ago if he could use my address for some mail, I didn't hear danger. He said there had been package theft in his neighborhood, said he had important documents coming. I pictured a few envelopes, maybe bank statements, insurance paperwork. It felt like a small favor. I said yes. That was my first mistake. The envelopes started arriving about 6 weeks ago. Official looking. Banks, lending companies, names I didn't recognize. At first, I assumed they were junk. Pre-approved offers, the kind everyone gets. I stacked them on my kitchen counter, telling myself I'd drop them off to Dad the next time I saw him. Then yesterday I came home from work and found a certified letter taped to my front door. It required my signature. The return address read, First National Lending Group. I signed for it, curious more than alarmed, and opened it right there in the hallway. It was addressed to me. The letter referenced a reverse mortgage agreement signed 4 months ago. It listed an account number, a loan amount, a disbursement schedule, and then I saw the property address. My house, my actual house. According to the letter, I had taken out a reverse mortgage for $18,000 against my home equity. It also showed that $45,000 had already been paid out in 3 separate disbursements. I read it 3 times. My brain refused to absorb it. Then I called the number on the letterhead. The customer service representative was calm, professional, almost soothing. She confirmed the account existed, confirmed it was in my name, confirmed it was tied to my property. I told her I never applied for a reverse mortgage, that I never signed anything, that I was 26 years old and didn't even qualify for one. There was a pause. "Ma'am," she said carefully, "according to our records, you're 58. Your date of birth is listed as April 12th, 1967, my father's birthday." Something cold slid down my spine. She suggested I come into a branch office with identification to discuss it in person. After we hung up, I walked back to my kitchen counter and opened every single envelope I'd ignored. Credit card statements showing thousands in charges I never made. A personal loan from an online lender. A payday loan notice warning of a missed payment. Collection letters. Denial letters for applications I never submitted, all in my name, all using my social security number, information my father had access to my entire childhood, all sent to my address because I'd given him permission. I didn't sleep that night. This morning, I pulled my credit report. My score had dropped more than 100 points. 7 hard inquiries. Multiple accounts in collections. That's when the panic finally broke through. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a mistake. Someone had stolen my identity. And deep down, before I even said his name out loud, I already knew exactly who it was. I went to the bank as soon as the doors opened. I brought everything. My driver's license, my passport, my social security card, the original mortgage documents from when I bought the house 2 years ago, printed copies of every letter, every statement, every notice I'd opened the night before. I hadn't slept, but adrenaline kept me upright. The branch manager, a woman named Patricia, listened without interrupting. She didn't rush me. She didn't look skeptical. She just grew quieter as I spoke, her expression tightening in a way that told me she already knew where this was heading. She pulled up the account on her computer, compared the signatures, compared the photos. Then she excused herself. When she came back 20 minutes later, she wasn't alone. Her supervisor stood beside her, his jaw set, his hands clasped in front of him, like he was delivering bad news. "Ms. Martin," he said gently, "this is a clear case of identity theft." Relief hit first, sharp and sudden. Then nausea followed right behind it. The signature on the loan documents didn't match mine. The photo on file wasn't me. The birth date used for the application made the borrower eligible for a reverse mortgage because it was my father's. "So the loan is fraudulent," I said. "It'll be canceled, right?" Patricia and her supervisor exchanged a look. "It's not that simple," she said carefully. "The funds have already been dispersed. The title on your property has been encumbered with a lien. This will require a police report, a formal investigation, and likely legal proceedings." "How long?" I asked. "Months," she said, "possibly longer." I left the bank with a thick packet of forms, a checklist of next steps, and a recommendation for a fraud attorney. I sat in my car in the parking lot for 20 minutes, staring at the steering wheel, trying not to throw up. Then I called my father. He answered on the third ring, cheerful like always. "Paige, good to hear from you." "We need to talk," I said. Something in my voice must have landed because his tone shifted immediately. "Is everything okay?" "No," I said. "I'm coming over." I drove to his place, a small rental about 15 minutes from my house. My thoughts raced the entire way. What I'd say, how I'd say it, whether I'd scream or cry or freeze. Evan's truck was in the driveway when I arrived. Great. I didn't knock. I still had a key for emergencies. Dad and Evan were in the living room watching a game. They both looked up when I walked in. I must have looked the way I felt because Evan muted the TV immediately. "What's wrong?" Dad asked, standing. I dropped the stack of documents onto the coffee table. "You want to explain these?" He looked down at the papers. I watched his face closely. I was looking for confusion, surprise, anything that said this was a misunderstanding. I didn't see it. Just a flicker of something, resignation maybe, before he sank back onto the couch. "Paige," he said, rubbing his face. "Let me explain. You took out a reverse mortgage on my house," I said, "using my identity, my social security number. You committed fraud." Evan's head snapped up. "What?" "Ask him," I said, not looking away from Dad. "Ask him where the money came from." Dad sighed, long and heavy, the same way he used to when he told us we had to move or couldn't afford something. "I was trying to help the family," he said. I laughed. I couldn't stop it. It came out sharp and ugly. "Help the family by stealing my identity? It's not stealing if it's family," he said. "Yes, it is," I snapped. "That's exactly what it is. I could lose my house over this. My credit is destroyed." I forced myself to breathe. Where did the money go? I asked. Dad glanced at Evan, then back at me. I had debts, business investments that didn't pan out. I needed to consolidate, get back on my feet. It's a reverse mortgage, I said slowly. You don't pay it back. Silence. You didn't even understand what you signed, I whispered. I talked to the broker, Dad said defensively. He explained it. No monthly payments, access to equity. It was perfect. I'm 26, I said. The only reason this worked is because you pretended to be me. Evan stood up. Dad, he said, his voice tight. Is this true? Dad turned to him immediately. You don't understand the pressure I've been under. Don't, I said. Don't justify this. Dad stood, suddenly defeated. We can fix it, he said. The bank doesn't need to know. They already know, I said. I'm filing a police report. His face went pale. You're going to have me arrested, he said. Your own father. You committed a felony, I said. What did you think would happen? I thought you'd understand, he said quietly. I thought you'd help. Something broke in me then. All the excuses I'd made for him, all the distance I thought would keep me safe. I bought that house for stability, I said, and you put it at risk. I'm done, I said. Don't come to my house. Don't call me. As I turned to leave, Dad spoke again. The bank will want their money back, he said. The lien is on your property. I stopped at the door. Then I'll deal with that, I said. But I won't help you cover up a crime. Wait, Evan said suddenly. There's more, he added, looking at Dad, isn't there? Dad sank back onto the couch. The broker suggested, he said slowly, that it would help if family members were established as residents, to show the house was being used as a shared household. My stomach dropped. He planned to have me move into your house, Evan said, to make it look legitimate. I stared at my father. You were going to move Evan into my house, I said, without asking me. I was going to explain, Dad said quickly. After committing fraud, I said. I looked at Evan. Did you know? He shook his head. Not until last week, I swear. I wanted to believe him. I'm leaving, I said. If either of you comes near my property, I'm calling the police. I walked out, shaking, and before I even reached my driveway, I knew this wasn't over. I filed the police report that afternoon. Saying the words out loud, identity theft, fraud, forged documents, felt unreal, like I was narrating someone else's life. The officer taking my statement didn't react the way I expected. No shock, no disbelief, just calm, methodical questions. That scared me more than anything. The detective assigned to my case, Sarah Martinez, called me the next morning. Her voice was steady, professional, practiced in a way that told me she'd seen this before. Family cases are some of the hardest, she said, but the evidence you have is strong. Strong didn't make me feel safe. I hired a fraud attorney 2 days later. She walked me through what the next several months would look like. Credit disputes, bank investigations, legal limbo. She was honest in a way that hurt. Your credit will stay damaged for a while, she said. Your house is technically encumbered until fraud is legally established. So I just wait, I said. For now, she replied. And you document everything. I hadn't spoken to my father since the confrontation. He called anyway, over and over. Apologetic voicemails, angry ones that twisted the truth until I almost questioned my own memory. I blocked his number after 3 days. Evan called once. Just once. I didn't know, he said. I swear I didn't. I believed him. Or maybe I needed to. Then things shifted. I came home one evening to find my mailbox broken open. Not pried, ripped. The locking mechanism torn clean off. My mail was gone. I called Detective Martinez. She came out in person, took photos, asked careful questions. Do you think it was your father? She asked. I don't know, I said. She didn't say anything, but her silence said enough. 2 days later, I noticed fresh scratches around my back door lock. The frame splintered slightly, like someone had tested it and failed. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, I installed security cameras. Front door, back door, driveway, side yard. Cloud storage. Motion alerts sent straight to my phone. 3 nights later, at 2:47 a.m., my phone buzzed. Motion detected. Front door. I watched the footage live from my bed, heart pounding. A figure stood on my porch, hoodie pulled low. The night vision was grainy, but I recognized the posture instantly. My father knocked. I didn't move. "Paige," he said through the door. "I know you're home." He knocked again, harder. "We need to talk. This has gone too far." I sat frozen, watching him try the doorknob. It held. He stood there for 5 minutes. Then he left. I sent the footage to Detective Martinez before sunrise. She called me within the hour. "This is escalating," she said. "I want you to consider a restraining order." A restraining order against my own father. I didn't hesitate. By the time I hung up, I understood something I hadn't before. This wasn't just about money. This was about entitlement. And he wasn't done. The restraining order hearing was scheduled for the following week. I thought I'd feel relieved walking into that courtroom. Instead, I felt hollow. My father sat on the opposite side of the room with an attorney who looked bored, like this was just another inconvenience on his calendar. Dad wouldn't look at me. When the judge reviewed the evidence, the forged documents, the bank records, the security footage of him on my porch at night, the decision came quickly. Temporary restraining order granted. 500 feet. No contact, no messages through third parties, nothing. Dad's face finally changed then. Not anger, not remorse, shock. Like he genuinely couldn't believe this was happening to him. Walking out of that courthouse should have felt like a victory. It didn't. It felt like a funeral for the father I kept hoping he'd someday be. The criminal investigation moved faster after that. Detective Martinez called me one afternoon and asked if I was sitting down. "The mortgage broker your father worked with is cooperating," she said. "He's facing charges of his own and is trying to reduce his sentence." Apparently, the broker had known something was wrong. The age discrepancy, the rushed processing, the inconsistencies. He'd ignored them for money. My father had paid him extra, under the table, to push it through. Identity theft, fraud, conspiracy, bribery, multiple felonies. The district attorney filed charges 2 weeks later. If convicted on all counts, my father was looking at 8 to 15 years in prison. Evan called me that night. "He's spiraling," he said. "He keeps saying you'll come to your senses. That family doesn't do this to each other." "I didn't do this," I said. "He did." There was a pause. "I know," Evan said quietly. "I'm just worried." That conversation stayed with me. And then, 2 weeks later, Evan showed up at my house, unannounced. I almost didn't open the door. He stepped back immediately, hands raised. "I'm not here for Dad," he said. "I swear. I need to tell you something." Against my better judgment, I let him in. He looked exhausted, older than I remembered. He sat at my kitchen table and dropped his head into his hands. "He's trying to do it again," Evan said. My blood went cold. "What do you mean, again?" "I stopped by his place to grab some of my stuff," he said. "I saw paperwork, loan applications, comparison sheets, online lenders, using my name, my information, again." I called Detective Martinez immediately. That night, officers went to my father's house with a warrant. They found printed applications, submitted forms, emails. He'd already sent 2 out. Attempted identity theft. While under investigation. While under a restraining order. He was arrested that evening. The judge denied bail. My father was taken to jail, where he would stay until trial. When Detective Martinez told me, I sat down on the floor and cried. Not out of sadness, but from sheer exhaustion. The bank voided the reverse mortgage shortly after. The lien on my property was officially removed. My credit began the slow process of recovery. But what shocked me most came later, from Evan. He told me, Evan said, that he was trying to protect you. Protect me. He said if he could get enough money, he could fix everything. That you'd see he was helping. That's when I understood something terrifying. He didn't think he'd done anything wrong, and he never had. My father has been in jail for 2 weeks now. According to my attorney, he'll stay there until trial. The judge ruled that he was both a flight risk and a continued threat, someone who had already proven he would repeat the same crime even while under investigation. Hearing that should have shattered me. Instead, it quieted something inside my chest. The bank made it official 3 days after his arrest. The reverse mortgage was voided. The lien on my house was removed. My credit report began updating, slowly, line by line, dispute by dispute. It will take months before it's fully clean. But the worst is over. Evan visited Dad once in jail. He told me afterward that the entire conversation felt surreal. He kept saying it was a misunderstanding, Evan said, that you'd come around, that blood matters more than paperwork. I didn't say anything. There was nothing left to say. I started therapy around that time. Not because I felt broken, but because I felt untethered, angry at things I couldn't fix, grieving someone who was still alive but never really there. My therapist said something that stuck with me. "You're not mourning your father," she said. "You're mourning the version of him you needed and never had." That was true. Evan moved out of Dad's place shortly after the arrest. He got his own apartment, a steady job. We started having dinner once a week. Awkward at first, then easier. I spent years thinking he was unlucky, Evan admitted one night over takeout, like the world was always against him. I see it now. He created his own chaos and expected everyone else to pay for it. The house feels like mine again. I changed every lock, upgraded the security system. Slowly, the constant edge of fear faded. I sleep through the night now. I don't jump at every sound. People ask me if I regret pressing charges. The answer is no. What my father did wasn't a mistake. It wasn't desperation. It was entitlement. He stole my identity, committed fraud, put my home at risk, and when caught, tried to do it again. That's not love. That's abuse. Family doesn't get a free pass to destroy you. The legal system is doing its job. Accountability is happening. Justice isn't loud or dramatic the way people imagine. It's slow, procedural, and sometimes hollow, but it matters. I deserve to feel safe in my own home. I deserve a future that isn't hijacked by someone else's choices. And I've learned something I wish I'd understood sooner. Sometimes loving yourself means protecting yourself from the people who are supposed to protect you first.